serious injuries in their state. In the state of their bodies suggests that they may have survived for hours after leaving the tent, which further complicates the avalanche hypothesis. So that's another thing that a lot of them don't want to take into consideration. Like, the bodies were found 75 kilometers away, so how was it that an avalanche was able to do that, and then they were able to get out of the tent with their with no socks or anything like that, and then make it 75 kilometers away? So that kind of throws the whole avalanche thing, down the sewer. And this all just seems, and it does, it's a recurring buildup of, military cover-up. Like, something has to be explained that they don't want the general public to know about, you know what I mean? And the oddest part is this new investigation took place in 2020, only 5 years ago. And they come back out with another, mini avalanche theory. Instead of it being a big avalanche theory, it's a mini avalanche theory. So it just keeps building up and building up. You know what I mean? Now, given the severity of the injuries and the lack of alignment with natural explanations, many researchers and enthusiasts have turned to other theories. Now, testing of parachute mines or other experimental devices could explain the concussion injuries without external trauma. So, if they were in the tent in these parachute mines did freaking go off nearby them, it could have caused an external trauma to them. So I don't know how true these parachute mine experiments really are. This is new to me. I actually heard about it through this right here, but before that I've never even thought about the Soviets doing secret parachute mine experiments anywhere. I've never even thought of people doing that in the United States even, you know what I mean? Parachuting mines out. So it's something that I really do think I should probably check into to find out about it. It's just really odd. I've never even thought about that before. Now, the radiation and reports of glowing orbs in the sky also aligns with that theory as well. Radiation, I don't know if mines would set off radiation levels, not unless they were radioactive. That's kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I would have to do a little bit more research into that, because I doubt that any just ordinary landmine that's being parachuted out of an airplane could emit radiation and cause that kind of trouble. Now, if these were landmines with radiation in it, that would be different, and even that way, with what I've known so far about radiation, it would have to have been some kind of dirty bomb. And you would think that a dirty bomb would have been picked up by a Geiger counter, so that right there, I don't know too much if that would stick, that's just my take on it. It's like I said, if you have any theories on that and you feel like discussing them, put them in the comment section. I'd be more than happy to hear it. I am, like I said before, I am keeping track on the chat, so if you guys do have something that you want to put your 2 cents on, say it, and I will say it on stream. So I am here, and I am reading the chat section, so you're more than welcome to leave a comment. I put the link inside there for the Skype. If you want to come in and you want to talk about it, you're more than welcome to. Just click on that. You don't have to sign in as an account. You can just go in as a guest and say your piece, stick around and talk about it if you want, or just say your piece and leave. It's up to you. Now, the whole thing about the theory involving infrasound or even paranormal phenomena, it's been it's been used to explain the hikers' irrational behavior and their unusual injuries. Now, I try not to put my input on a lot of that when it comes to the paranormal and paranormal phenomenons. The infrasound, I just don't know. That would be a lot. That's kind of like, and I know a lot of people use it as a joke these days, but it's kind of like, do you remember back in the 90s, in the early 2000s, when everybody used to joke about the speakers that were so loud it could blow the clothes off of women? They used to have it on there. It was big, it was kind of a funny joke that was around a lot of people who were into bass, and that's kind of like what they're talking about right there. That's that's really pushing it, is what I'm saying. For infrasound to be able to do that, it would take a lot of sound. It would have to be really, really big. So now there's also another thing that they said that it had to do with interpersonal conflict. That's something too that they mentioned, where these people could have been fighting against one another. Now, the thing of it is, though, that would make sense, but the only problem is there's two people that were found together. That was 1.5 kilometers away. Then there's two other ones that was just a little farther off, that were found together. And then after that, the remaining were all together, buried under snow 75 kilometers away from there. And they were found later on. Apparently, they had made it 75 kilometers away from the tent and were pretty much gathered together and froze to death, supposedly. But there was no inner conflict. They were actually grouped up. I mean, there was no one person by themselves. You know what I mean? So that's not really, in my opinion, very logical. The interpersonal conflict in the animal attacks was less supported by the evidence anyhow, but it has been floated to explain, the combination of injuries and the chaotic flight from the tent. So that it has been used as to a certain degree as a possibility. You know what I mean? But it's not. To me personally, I don't feel as though it's a good enough explanation for it. The initial Soviet investigator concluded in May of 1959 that what attributed to the deaths was caused by natural forces, without specifying any further details. But later on, though, classified documents and subsequent inquiries have all failed to provide definitive answers, okay, to what actually took place. Now, Yuri Krevinskinko, I'm really bad with Russian names, but his clothes were the ones that were reported to have elevated levels of radiation. This was puzzling because there was no immediate environmental sources of radiation in the area. They didn't find any that could have been emitted from parachute mines. And if there was like a dirty bomb that they were experimenting on, you'd still find radiation in the area, which they didn't find. Then we come to Alexander Kalavatov. He had similar traces of radiation that was detected on his clothes, though it was at a lesser extent than what Krevneskov's was. Now, the process of radiation, or the presence of radiation, has led to questions about whether the hikers were exposed to a radioactive source before or during the expedition. Yuri Krevinskinko had previously worked at the Merrick plant, and the Merrick plant is the one that eventually had a nuclear disaster, which isn't very much heard of. This was a big secret that the Soviet Union wanted to keep quiet, and they were able to keep it quiet for a while until they had the big one, but this one happened first, and this is what really adds on to the mystery, because it could have been a failed investigation, but it could have also been a cover-up because the Soviets didn't want it coming out what had happened at Merrick, the Merrick plant, and finding a body or two bodies with radiation on them, and one of the people that was a part of the expedition also by chance worked for Mayak, the Mayak plant. That could have caused problems with it. The Soviet nuclear facility that experienced one of the worst nuclear accidents in history, the Kishim disaster, and that was in 1957. This accident released significant amounts of radiation into the environment, and he was actually one of the employees who worked there. It's possible that Krevinskinko's involvement in the cleanup efforts cleanup efforts or work at the plant is what led to some of the residual contamination on his clothing. However, the fact that the contamination was still detectable years later during the 1959 expedition, it raises questions about whether this was residual or from a new source, you know what I mean? Because this happened years after that, so why would that contamination still be on his clothes that far ahead of time? So was it because of that disaster, or was it from a new source? That's another question that has been brought up. Now, it is plausible that the traces of radiation from his clothing were residual from his work at Mayak. However, this doesn't explain why Kalav